All right, hello everybody. We're going to be doing a keto crepes recipe. This can totally be modified. This is not a vegan recipe, but if you wanted to make it vegan, there's some things that you could change. There's obviously things that you can do different if you want to do higher fats, if you want to do paleo. Lots of variations that you could do with this one, but this one right here, we're just going to stick with this one recipe, then you can modify it how you'd like to. Keto crepes, so very friendly with the keto nutrition plan if you're following that, and simple whole food ingredients. So I went ahead and already blended up my mixture for my crepes. I wanted to test it out before I did a video because it took me several tries to get it right. I have several failed attempts in the garbage can. So I finally got it figured out, the ratios right, and the temperature right on the stove makes a really big difference too, and having the right consistency for your batter makes a difference. So you want your crepes to be really light and airy. You want to be able to fold them up. You can make them into a sweet crepe or a savory crepe depending on what you want to fill it with, or you could just eat them like this. They're really tasty. So the ingredients that we have today that I've mixed in our blender in the Vitamix, you can always mix it in just a bowl with a regular handheld blender or however you want to do it. This is just easy. I like to do portion control. That way I know exactly what I am getting, what my macro ratios are, so I always measure everything out. But if you wanted to, if you weren't worried about that, you could just pour straight from your blender. So the ingredients that we're using for this keto crepes recipe, the very first thing is 1 cup of water. So 1 cup of water into your blender. The next thing is 4 eggs, whole eggs. So just grab brown eggs, whatever, free range, whatever ones you want to use, whatever you have in your fridge. When I'm doing new recipes, I like to just grab whatever I have on hand. So 4 eggs is the next thing, and I'll post the recipe in full right after this video on the video link. So 4 whole eggs, 4 ounces of coconut cream. So you could, I like to use coconut cream. If you wanted to, if you're doing like a high fat thing, you could do cream cheese and organic cream cheese, but I chose coconut milk. We don't do a ton of dairy in our house, so this is just regular unsweetened coconut milk. You can mix it, and then because it kind of separates itself and the real fatty part kind of layers up on top, but you can mix it up if you want to, or if you just want to take the stuff right off the top, that's going to have the most healthy fats from the coconut. So that's what I did. I just took the stuff right off the top, and that is going to be in 1/2 of a cup of the coconut milk cream. The next thing is the recipe actually called for 1 cup of flour of your choice. I used almond flour. I needed more, so I probably used about 1.5 maybe to 1 3/4 cup to get that sort of consistency. It was way too thin before, and I was trying to flip these crepes and it was a disaster. I was breaking them left and right. So I added some more almond flour, and that seemed to do the trick. I got the right consistency. So you might have to play around with that a little bit depending if you're using coconut flour, almond flour, whatever kind of flour that you're using. So yeah, keep that in mind. And then the last thing that is optional, if you're making a savory crepe, you can always add, you know, some rosemary or, you know, a little bit of salt and pepper, something like that. Or if you want to make a sweet crepe, we use these stevia, liquid stevia. So this one's coconut. This is just what we had in the house. You can use almond, there's plain flavored, and you're only going to use 1/2 teaspoon of this. This stuff is really strong. So you can use that as well, or you can omit that if you want a savory crepe. So what you're going to do now is you're going to want to make sure that you have your pan heated. So this pan is heated. I did put a little bit of the Kerrygold butter on it, so that way the crepe is not going to stick. And I'm going to add just a little bit more because it's, yeah, while I was talking it kind of evaporated a little bit. So I'm just going to add a little bit more. And then I'm going to take 1/4 of a cup because I want to measure this out so I'm getting the right ratios. And sometimes the almond flour is a little bit heavy, so you have to mix it up a little bit before you take your scoop. So I'm taking a full 1/4 scoop and I'm just spreading that on the pan. Now if you want to, I know you can't really see here, but you can lift up the pan and kind of above the heat, kind of move the batter around so that way you're spreading it evenly. This is a really small pan, so I don't have to worry about that too much, but I am gonna keep an eye on it, and it's gonna take probably about 2 to 3 minutes to cook. So while that cooks, we're gonna go over exactly what the macro ratios are for this and calorie count. So the calorie count, if you're doing 1/4 of a cup, is gonna be 104 calories. Now I did add a little bit more almond flour, so I would say it's probably gonna be roughly about 115, 120, just depending on how much you add in. So that does change the ratios just a little bit. This has 9 grams of fat. I also use the top of this coconut milk, the coconut cream, so that's gonna be a little bit higher in the fat. If you use cream cheese, that would change it a little bit too, but just for this general recipe, 9 grams of fat. Only 1 net carb. So it does have 2 carbs, but we also get 1 carb of fiber, so we subtract that. 1 net carb for 1 crepe, which is really awesome. We love the low carb. And also 4 grams of protein. So the almond flour definitely helps add the protein value to this in addition to the eggs. So that's really awesome. And as you can see, this is cooking really well. When you start to see the bubbles kind of pop up on the top, you know that it's kind of ready. I always just kind of scoop around the sides just to see, because I had to learn the hard way by ruining several of them, that you've got to wait for it to be ready to flip. Crepes are very delicate. They're not thick and heavy like a pancake. They're very, very, very thin. So you need to wait until they're ready, and this one is not quite ready yet. So once your crepes are done, I'm gonna let that one finish cooking. Once your crepes are done, you don't wanna stack them one on top of the other before they are cool. You need to make sure that they are cooled, otherwise you will rip them. So make sure that you're putting them individually on a plate or wherever, you know, if you put out, whatever you put out on your counter, just to let them cool down. So once they're cooled, then you can stack them on top of each other. Wait also till they're cool, till you fill them. So once again, you can have whatever type of variation that you want with these crepes. You can scramble up some eggs with some herbs, rosemary, garlic, and then roll them up. Or you can make a sweet crepes where you can put maybe some raspberries. I would probably put a heavy whip on it, make my own whip. Don't buy that stuff from the store that comes in the can, right? No, don't do that. Make your own. Get your own heavy cream. Add a little bit of stevia or monk fruit sweetener to it. Make your own. Wrap that up. Super, super tasty treat. So this one's ready to flip now. I'm just gonna very gently flip it. And good to go. So I have a glass top stove, and it took me a little bit to figure out exactly where it needed to be temperature-wise. I'm about 3.5 on my small burner right here. You're gonna have to play around with that. You're gonna have to figure out what works for you on your stove as far as temperature goes. You don't wanna over brown it, and you definitely don't want to undercook them either. So yeah, so that's our keto crepes. I hope that gave you some ideas, new breakfast ideas on things that you can make, or breakfast for dinner if you want to do that as well. And I hope that helped you guys learn a new recipe. I learned something new today, which is awesome. So have a great rest of your day, and I'll be posting another video soon. I'm not quite sure what we're gonna tackle next, but we'll find something awesome and then I'll share it with you guys. Have a great day.